Good morning. It's early on a September morning here in my garden, and I'm standing amidst my Tithonia rotundiflora. Alright, it's early. I haven't even had my tea yet. If you're new here, if you don't know me, my name is Misty and you've reached the suburban edge. It's that place between the country and the city where together you and I can learn modern homesteading skills. Now, why do I want to talk about Tithonia? Let me show you. Tithonia goes by many names. It's known as the red sunflower, the giant Mexican sunflower, the Japanese sunflower, shrub sunflower, tree marigold. It is a member of the Asteraceae family. That means it's more like a daisy than a sunflower. So beautiful. As I mentioned earlier, I'm growing the Tithonia rotundiflora. Now you may know the yellow variety known as the Tithonia diversiflora, and most of the information out there is about the diversiflora. Now I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. This plant, you either love it or you hate it. It's easy to confuse the rotundiflora, which I have here, with the diversiflora, especially before it flowers. The diversiflora has bright yellow flowers, and also the leaves are slightly different. It's usually five-lobed leaves. I should mention that in zones 10 or higher, this plant can become invasive. Before you plant Tithonia of any variety, check with your local county extension to see if it's invasive in your region. Fairly pest-free and low maintenance, this can make a very attractive plant for your flower bed. It can grow 4 to 6 feet, so if you're going to plant it in your flower bed, probably a good idea to do it in the back of your flower bed. It's known to attract many beneficial pollinators. It attracts butterflies, bees, hummingbirds, other beneficial insects, and other pollinators. Now I do know that certain beneficial insects are attracted to the rotundiflora that aren't attracted to the diversifolia, and vice versa. It's strange how close and how far apart those two varieties are, and I'll come to that toward the end. You want your plant to get to 4 to 6 feet. You're going to want it to put it in a very sunny location. Don't do what I did. I planted these behind some cosmos in kind of a shady, cool area. They didn't even get 3 feet tall. They're probably not going to flower. I planted the seeds for these in early May. They didn't flower until, late August. But now it doesn't seem like there's any stopping them. These plants will be late flowering plants, but a lot of my other pollinator feeding plants are starting to die back. It's great. These will bloom and flourish until your first frost. Okay, one thing about this plant is it really tolerates poor soil fairly well. It does not like a rich, fertile soil, as it may just become bushy and never bloom. Okay, I know I've said it before, but my dirt is almost 100% sand. This plant loves a well-drained soil. It has very tall, slender stalks. They're woody at the bottom, but they can actually become pretty weak in the middle. If you've got winds coming, you may need to stake these. I've heard that you could pinch them back earlier to promote bushiness. I didn't do that. I've never planted this plant before, but I probably will again. So beautiful. Makes an excellent cut flower. Look how charming that is. Don't need to be watered very often. They're supremely drought tolerant. Deer don't like them. And look at this showy thing. It's way above my head. Another thing that's above my head is this study I found on the internet. Came out in 2018, and it's by BMC, and it was a study on both Tithonia diversiflora and Tithonia floribunda. No, rotundiflora. Oh my gosh. It was a study that came out in 2008 that compared Tithonia diversiflora to Tithonia rotundiflora. And they were looking for medicinal uses of these plants. In certain countries, Tithonia diversiflora and rotundiflora are used to treat a variety of ailments. And this study really talks about the compounds in these two plants. I'm not going to read you this. Please go find it. It's fascinating because it's considered an invasive plant in a lot of countries, especially Africa. It does things for the soil, but they're not sure that the benefits of the plant outweigh the invasive nature of the plant. Now, I bought my seeds at the store, the hardware store. I bought it based solely on, wow, a really big plant with orange flowers, because you might not know this, but orange is one of my favorite colors. And I wanted something that would attract pollinators to my pollinator garden. Very controversial plant, but the rotundiflora, like I said, has very little information on it. This study was fascinating to read, although, a lot of scientific which I, but I did get enough out of it to tell you that there are a lot of potential medicinal benefits to these two cultivars. Now, at the end of the report, I'm just going to read that to you. The problem caused by alien invasive plants cannot be overemphasized as they result in loss of agricultural lands, livelihoods, and biodiversity, which may lead to economic burden. Okay, so in places where this is invasive, don't give this plant to your neighbors. Don't propagate it. I'm in zone 8B. This is an annual here. I do not expect it to come back next year. I would be shocked because we have a very cool climate with a short growing season. For me, it makes an excellent pollinator attractor and a beautiful cut flower. If you live in a tropical zone, I'm going to recommend you avoid this plant. Unless you get you get someone that's sterile somehow, and I'm not a scientist, so, right? I'm just doing a YouTubes on the side, not fancy or smart in any way. But what it said at the end was that they were both evaluated for antibacterial, antimycobacterial, I don't know if I'm saying that right, miso, I don't know, MYCO bacterial, and antifungal properties. In the diversifolia, there were different compounds or different levels of each compound than there were in the rotundiflora, but they both had these properties, and it can actually be looked into deeper for medicinal purposes, to use these invasive plants to help mankind, which is wonderful. Also, both plants are used as green manure. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. You can check on YouTube. There's many people who talk about diversifolia for this. Rotundiflora, am I saying this right? There's plenty of YouTube channels that will tell you how to use diversifolia as green manure. I did so much research because rotundiflora is not rotundifloria? I'm saying rotundiflora, but it's rotundifloria. So if I've said rotundiflora before, just know I mean rotundifloria. Thanks for understanding. Anyway, there's tons of research or tons of videos you can watch on YouTube about Tithonia diversifolia. There's not very much on Tithonia rotundifolia. But I will tell you, this report talks about the fact that both are used as green manure. If that's something you're interested in, you absolutely can use rotundifolia as green manure and to make a fertilizing tea. That being said, that's not something I plan to do for me. Now, if you want to make a green manure from Tithonia? Absolutely. Tithonia is another one of those interesting plants that can accumulate a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus from the soil, which makes it an excellent plant for a green manure or chop and drop or, fertilizing tea. It does not fix nitrogen to the soil. It does nothing for the soil, but it will bring up those things from the soil. And you can actually use it as fodder for some of your chickens, like it, I guess. Goats will eat it. I guess pigs will eat it. Deer won't eat it. I mean, I really don't know enough about that, but do your own research. I am encouraging you to do your own research. Here comes the sun. Yay! Oh, it's cold. And the reason I think you should research it is this 2018 scientific study states. So the very last line says, the economic burden caused by both species may be tackled through their use as a source of medicines. That's great. The weed plants, which is what they call them in this report because it's very invasive in other countries. It is a weed in other countries. In other places in this country, it's considered a weed. The weed plant may also serve as an alternative to highly exploited indigenous plants that possess the same medicinal properties. Now listen to the very last line of this report. The very last line. However, care must be taken in the use of Tithonia diversifolia, as it may be toxic. If you want to forage, live off the land, I would highly recommend you read this report. It does give the levels of toxicity. It talks about the tannins and saponins that are in these plants that are very beneficial, but also, I have talked about this before, do your research, everything in moderation, my friends, everything. I don't plan on, I just want to enjoy this, and I want my pollinators to enjoy it. It's in my pollination garden. It's a beautiful plant. It's so interesting. Just a little bit about the Tithonia rotundifolia. Gosh, I've got to say this. You guys amaze me. I'm so touched, and I'm so honored that you choose to spend your time with me. I'm like just this person living in the Pacific Northwest who really likes her garden and likes to cook and can. That's it. So anyway, I wanted to say thanks, and I do want to share some news that if you're new here, you may not know, but for the last basically year and a half, I've been dealing with breast cancer, and it was a rough journey, but I just want to say, the great news is I got my port removed last Friday. It was so emotional. I'm still kind of emotional about it. That was like the least invasive surgery I've had in this journey, but it was the most significant in that it really signifies the chemo's over, and I don't have to put that stuff in my body, and I can really start going from here. And I did a year of chemotherapy, and for those of you that are in it, whatever journey you're in, just know you are not alone, that God is with you. So as the chemo, all those chemicals are leaving my body, what's left is I am feeling whole, I am feeling holy, and I'm feeling wholeheartedly happy. So thank you for joining me on my journey. If you like this kind of content, and it will vary because I'm basically just inviting you into my life in little moments of what we do here at this place. But thank you for joining me. If you like it, please just hit the like button, and please consider subscribing because I'd love to have you. If you like this content, please join my little band of people, and I love your comments. I love your ideas. If you know about Tithonia, hey, let me know. If you've planted it, if you've battled it, if you hate it, if you love it, how you use it, let me know. Let the community know, because we all want to hear from you. So thank you very much, and God bless you all. More gardening videos right here. Have a wonderful day. Bye.